ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of the Boardmen Don't Get Paid podcast. I'm your host, Drew, joined by my co-host, Lawrence, and our special guest. I mean, you're pretty much another co-host at this point. Our other co-host, Yash. How's it going, Yash?
Pretty good, guys. You?
Good. So, in our last episode, we discussed some basic strategy on how to approach a snake draft. Fantasy Football 101, if you will. And for this episode, we would like to kind of go over particular players that, each one of us likes, maybe players that we would target in a particular round, and look at the ADP and see maybe where you can find some value. So hopefully you guys enjoy our episode, and let's get things started. So Lawrence, do you want to go ahead and
Yeah,
start?
so let's talk about, you get your first round of the draft, you're ready to click your first overall or your first round pick. How do you proceed? What's one player that you guys are trying to pick up, and what's one player you're avoiding in the first round? And obviously all of this is pick dependent. Like if you have the 10th overall pick, you're not going to get someone like Saquon if you want. If you're the first overall pick, you're not picking up somebody like James Conner, I mean, you could, but is there somebody that you want to target if you have a decent position versus is there somebody that you're avoiding? Like if you're a first overall pick, who are you choosing versus who are you avoiding?
Sure. So with the first round, I think there's kind of a consensus big three right now, and that is Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, and Christian McCaffrey. I think for the most part, if you have a top 3 pick, you can't really go wrong with taking that. As far as a player that I probably wouldn't take in the first round that is currently going in the first round, I see that Melvin Gordon is kind of teetering on the edge of the late first round. Personally, I would probably avoid taking him right now just because he's in a contract dispute. He's got 2 really solid running backs right behind him, and we really don't know what that situation will end up being. So a player like that, obviously huge upside, but the risk at this moment is probably not worth it considering there's other great players being taken around at the same point, like James Conner, Odell Beckham, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, all in that same range, safer and could probably perform just as well.
Yeah, I think that you made a great point in Saquon, Kamara, McCaffrey. I like to add one more to that list, and in David Johnson, who just 2 years ago was the number 1 overall pick in most fantasy drafts. Just 3 years ago was the number 1 overall running back. And it's not like this guy's coming back from a torn ACL or Achilles injury. Like he literally broke his finger or something like that and had to sit out a whole year because of a broken finger or hand. I don't know which one it was, but so he's still in football shape. Like it's not like his knee's gonna give out on him. Like the only reason last year why he didn't perform up to his standards was he was just in a piss poor offense. Like that was just he was literally getting first down, run up the middle, second down, run up the middle, third down, run up the middle. Like that Arizona offense was not good. And now, with Kingsbury there as a coach, he was one of the big, I guess, in college, he was the head of the Texas Tech offense, and that Texas Tech offense was just the air raid, throw it 50 times a game, spread the field, put up 40, have a QB put up 400 yards and 5 touchdowns and put up 50 points a game. That's the offense where Patrick Mahomes came from. So
right.
I think
and even though it's a running back, he's going to have a lot of potentially some goal line work, and he's also a pass catcher. He's not like a one-dimensional back.
Yeah, and so I think he's
value.
Exactly. So I think there's a couple of wide receivers that are kind of slated to go ahead of David Johnson. But I still think you pick David Johnson ahead of all those wide receivers, and he should be a surefire top 4 pick in my opinion. And a couple of guys that I'm avoiding in the first round are the ones that you said. Those contract disputes are no joke. People were drafting Le'Veon Bell last year as a top 2 running back, and because they thought that, oh, you know what, he's gonna come back by end of week 1. He never came back the entire year. So Ezekiel Elliott, I'm sorry, I can't touch him this year. And then Melvin Gordon. I'm not touching this year. Because they both have very capable backups to replace them if they do end up holding out this whole year.
But how far do you let Ezekiel Elliott fall before it's like, okay, now I really think the value is too high? Because he's, if he plays all 16 games, he's right in that top three, with the big three. And there is a percentage chance that does happen. Same thing with Melvin Gordon.
Yeah. So you can I think you can do the math on this. I feel like you can just get like an Excel sheet and figure out, if he skips 4 games, how many points is he missing, and versus like how many points other people are projected for the whole year. And it gets to a point where maybe he'll be putting up running back overall 9 numbers if he's given like 12 games. So at that point, running back 9, that's going in mid round 2. I just still think the first round's too early, even if he misses 4 games. Even if he misses like 2 games, I don't think the value's there in the first round. And it's honestly just a headache that I don't want to deal with. I'll let another owner deal with it instead.
So you take the safer route with that.
Yeah. I mean, why do I need to draft Zeke when I can get someone like Joe Mixon in round 2?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think an intriguing player this year for me in the first round that, there's a lot of differing opinions on him is Le'Veon Bell. There's people that feel that he's being taken too high. There's some people that feel he's being taken too low. He's kind of a polarizing player because we've seen what he can do when he's, firing on all cylinders. He is coming back from a whole year off. So from a recency bias aspect, maybe he is dropping too far, or maybe he's, at the right spot. We really don't know. Me personally, I think that if he falls in that later part of the first round, I would definitely take him because the upside to me is, tremendous because he's a guy that's going to be on the field for all 3 downs. He's got number 1 overall running back upside, and to take someone like that at, pick 11, for example, is something that's not going to be there, or that shouldn't be there. So I would, take him at that point personally.
Yeah. First round over with. Now let's move on to second and third rounds. Like, how are you approaching your draft here? Like, are there specific guys you're trying to target or guys you're just not going to touch?
So I'm, again, you're waiting for kind of the board to fall to you, and you kind of want to see how the rest of the people in your league are approaching the draft. So you kind of touched on this on the last episode. If there's a huge runoff of everyone taking running backs and that position's, thinning out super quickly, you probably should take a running back in this round. But, if things are going kind of how you would expect them to, or a couple running backs, a couple receivers, maybe even somebody reaching on a quarterback happen, then you can kind of just approach it from taking the best player available. One guy that, that you guys don't agree with that I am perfectly fine with taking, and definitely in the
Are we going to say Travis Kelce again? Because
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. If you're in
God damn.
the latter half of the second round or early third round and he's still sitting there, I would definitely take him. That's one guy that I'm perfectly fine with taking because you go in every week, you have a massive advantage against most teams at the position that has the most variance over, if you look at the last 10 years of fantasy football.
There's going to be a lot of angry people commenting here after the season's over, like raging at you for getting them to draft Travis Kelce.
The tight end strategy has worked for me for many years. So, I mean, hey, if that happens, so be it. But he's been the number 1 tight end in fantasy for the last 3 years. Give me that consistency in the end of the second round or early third.
All right. What's someone you're avoiding in this round?
Someone that I'm avoiding in this round. Let me take a look at the rankings here. 2 guys that I see here that I think are being drafted significantly higher than they should be are Patrick Mahomes, which I see in the middle of the second round on average, and Juju Smith-Schuster, who I think is in for a down year personally. So Patrick Mahomes, I kind of touched on this in the last episode. His last season, the crazy season he had, was a statistical anomaly. I don't expect him to come even close to that this year personally. And his schedule is really tough this year. Teams are going to have another year of film on him and how to game plan on him. There isn't really any value at taking him in the second round. If he was in the 4th or 5th round, sure, there's some value there, but taking him in the 2nd round, you really are basically banking on him doing the exact same thing or more than what he did last year for that to return value. So I disagree with taking him in the middle of the 2nd. And Juju Smith-Schuster, I think the loss of Antonio Brown is going to hurt him. When you look at that situation, you may say, hey, like now he has a bunch of targets coming his way because AB's targets are gone. He also has the number one cornerback on the opposing team defending him. He also has teams that are going to be double teaming him, much more frequently. And I think that's going to bring his numbers down overall. So I don't see him being in a good spot here at middle of the 2nd round. I think, if he fell to like the 4th, I would do it, but I can't take him middle of 2nd personally.
Yeah. What about you, Yash?
2nd round, for me, it's always drafting either a wide receiver, or if just God forbid one of those running backs just falls to the 2nd round, then I'll draft them. But for me, like I would definitely target, like a Michael Thomas. Drew's kind of right. Travis Kelce may be a good pick in the 2nd round if it's a late 2nd round pick. I mean, it's not a bad pick, but I think.
Did you just say I'm right?
I said you may be right.
Can we replay that on the?
I said you may be right. So, but if that would have to be, like if for some reason a lot of the wide receivers were taken early on, and the top 3 running backs, then I would consider Kelce. But here, I would probably take like a Michael Thomas, or if Devontae Adams is down there, I would take him. I would have taken like someone like, Tyreek Hill, late second, if it was a late 2nd round, but I just don't like. There's so many like legal issues and everything with him. Like I don't know how he's going to be this season. So that's kind of like I'll probably avoid Tyreek Hill. I would take maybe James Conner, 2nd round. That's not a bad pick. I've also got a personal bias because I picked him up off the waiver wire last year and performed really well for me. Adam Thielen, I feel like he's a justifiable 2nd round pick. He was getting a lot of targets his way. He was putting up numbers. Even if he was only maybe he had like 60 to 70 yards, but he had like 10 receptions. That's in a PPR league, that's like gold.
I think another player on Yahoo in particular that is ranked too low, in my opinion, is Todd Gurley. In Yahoo, for some reason, he's going late 2nd, early 3rd. I think the value of Todd Gurley is potentially way higher than that. I understand the risk with the health, but he's got the potential to be number 1 overall, and he's dropping to mid to late 20s, which is, could be dangerously low for him. Somebody could get a huge steal.
So I think I read somewhere that Rams are planning on Todd Gurley splitting his carries maybe 60-40 with the other running backs throughout the season. Mm-hmm. And then if you take 60% of Todd Gurley's production last year, I think he still ended up being like a running back 6. So there is definitely a point there.
In the red zone, they're always, putting up points on the board. So and I would assume that he's going to get the work in that region of the field.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I think looking at the landscape of this draft, I agree that I think a wide receiver in the 2nd round is probably the way to go. Like I see guys like Mike Thomas being draftable in round 2, Odell Beckham being draftable in round 2, but someone that I am going to be avoiding running back wise, I am not touching Nick Chubb going in right at the round 1-2 turn. I think that he's a great player, but I don't really know where his role is going to be in that offense, with the fact that he's not a true 3-down back as well. and the fact that Kareem Hunt's going to be coming back near the latter half of the season, there's so much uncertainty for me to draft someone like him end of round 1, beginning of round 2. And then you touched on another guy that I don't really plan on drafting, which is Juju Smith-Schuster. He's getting a lot of hype thinking that, he's going to be able to replace AB's shoes. But like you think about the year before where he's basically getting the weakest corner and not ever getting double teamed because they're so focused on AB, which is why Juju was able to put up the stats that he did. And he put up some great stats, I'll admit. But I think there's merit there to not drafting Smith-Schuster in the second round.
Completely agree with that.
Then a couple guys that I'm going to be targeting in the second round are actually a couple of running backs that I think are going to exceed value. First off, it's Joe Mixon, who, this guy is super talented. He was drafted in like the 4th round of the draft 3 years back, even though he beat up women. Like for an NFL team to take the chance on a running back that early, knowing that they have domestic violence issues, means that they're probably really super talented. And the only knock on him is, he's playing for a bad team with a bad O-line. But Saquon Barkley is getting drafted in first overall, playing on a bad team with a bad O-line. And you're getting basically a discount Saquon in middle of the second round. And then the other guy that I kind of want to touch on is Dalvin Cook, who, when healthy, has been a very explosive, dynamic playmaker for the Vikings. Yeah, they also have a bad O-line, but if he gets the touches that he's projected to have, if he becomes a true 3-down bell cow in Minnesota, that's a pretty good offense, and he's able to put up points that I think you'll exceed his.
They'll be in the red zone for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And I think he'll exceed his ADP of late second round.
Agreed. I'm curious as to what your guys take on a certain controversial player who's going in the later part of the second round, early part of the third round.
Yeah, so I remember we had a mock draft earlier this year, and somebody liked your team more because you drafted him at the end of the second round, which I was very little confused about.
Actually, wait. I drafted him in the third round, but this was before the helmet gate and cryotherapy gate happened. So knowing those things now, let's say he still plays 16 games and he's fully healthy. Let's assume he comes back.
The thing with Antonio Brown is like the last 5 years he's a consistent top 5 wide receiver, top 3 wide receiver in the last 5 years. Like there's been no wide receiver that has matched his consistency and his ability to not miss games in forever, right? And that's the type of upside that you're getting for a guy that you're drafting in round 3. But the downside is he's playing in Oakland with Derek Carr.
Hey, chill over there.
The AFC West has one of the toughest divisions when it comes to corners. I really think like the reason why Amari wasn't able to succeed the way that he does in Dallas is because they play against some very tough corners, and I don't know, like I think it's enough to justify AB dropping the new team, him being a year older, him being injured, and him playing with a not as good of a quarterback with not as much chemistry as Big Ben. I mean, we're talking about a 3-time Super Bowl champion versus a guy who 2-time Super Bowl champ versus a guy who, spikes the ball on 4th down with the game to go.
Hey, 2016, he looked like an MVP candidate. Maybe he regains that form.
Yeah,
in 2018, he looked like a 7th round pick candidate. So,
so who knows? Like, yeah, the upside's there, and I think 3rd round is just enough where you can take a flyer on him. But there's like other wide receivers that I kind of want to talk about next when we move on to the later rounds or middle rounds of the draft that I would rather have over AB.
I think he actually may slip even further than his ADP suggests because of recent news, particularly if your draft is like in the next few days. We're in August 11th right now. If you find out that he's healthy though, or if news comes out that he's healthy, I think early 3rd round is a good spot for a guy that's, like you said, been a consistent top 5 guy for like the last 6 years.
I
Um,
still have a couple of wide receivers that I'm gonna slot ahead of him, just because I want that, like, I want that certainty, versus I don't know what AB's thinking half the time.
I understand. I mean, and AB may possess the ability to get to top 3 overall wide receivers. He also may completely fizzle out with Derek Carr, who, doesn't scramble and create, improvisation yards like Ben
Yeah,
Roethlisberger does. So it's a completely different location for AB. So it's hard to anticipate him
and
producing.
Oakland is well known for being a place where wide receivers go to die.
You're just piling on my team today, man. This is so rude.
It's a sad franchise, man.
We're coming back. Going to Vegas.
Uh, yeah. So I mean, moving on to the middle rounds of the draft, like some of the guys that I want to talk about, who I'd rather have in front of AB. Like I think some of these wide receiver rankings are kind of egregious. Like the fact that Mike Evans is going in round 3, I am so confused by that. Like I don't know why he's going in round 3. Like just a couple of years ago, in a much worse situation, the dude was a first round pick. So give me someone like Mike Evans in round 3. Give me
With
someone like
Bruce Arians.
Ty. Yeah, with the Bruce Arians offense. Like this is a guy that took air raid to new heights. Uh, T.Y. Hilton is going in middle of the round 3. Like that guy's explosive and he's healthy. Andrew Luck is healthy.
Keenan Allen is going in middle of round 3.
Keenan
Mr.
Allen,
Gus.
exactly. Like some of these like I think third round is where you go for your wide receivers. Like some of these wide receivers are going way slipping way down the draft when they shouldn't have. And that's my opinion on these wide receivers. What about you guys?
I can agree with that. I think if you were in the home run hitting business, then I think AB has the chance to potentially far exceed where he's being taken. So if you're kind of a gambling type of fantasy player, I wouldn't mind if you went that direction. But if you want to play it safe, like you said, I can't see Mike Evans having a bad year. I can't see T.Y. Hilton or, Tyreek Hill or Keenan Allen, especially if they play every game. I can't see them having a bad
Adam
year.
Thielen going in round 3.
I think AB does have more upside than Adam Thielen, and I would probably take AB over Adam Thielen, versus the receivers that we just named. But yeah, you really can't go wrong with any of these third round wide receivers. What are some guys that you see on here that shouldn't be here though? Like that should be maybe a round later or 2 rounds later in round 3 and 4.
You want to take that away, Josh?
Yeah, I see like Amari Cooper as like a round 3 pick that shouldn't be there.
Ooh, it's a
And
questionable take right there.
well, because I think there's just better wide receivers you can take in round 3. I mean, you got Keenan Allen there. You definitely take Keenan Allen over Amari Cooper. They have Mike Evans in round 3. You definitely take him over Amari Cooper. I mean, it's not a knock on Amari Cooper. It's just the wide receiver pool is so deep that there's better players. He may be the WR1 in Dallas, but there's better receivers out there. There's better main receivers out there. So I think he shouldn't be in the third round. I mean, I wouldn't mind taking him late 4th, early 5th. That's fine. Let's see. In terms of running backs, Dalvin Cook is an interesting one. I think he can wait. I wouldn't take him in the 3rd. Honestly, I would just take another wide receiver in the 3rd. If one of Evans, Thielen, there's some sites that have Michael Thomas projected at the 3rd. Like, yeah, I would definitely take him. Keenan Allen, I would
What
take.
site is that?
It's like there's some sites out there, Fantasy Pros. I'm not going to name drop, but anyways, like
I just want to point out that after the trade to Dallas, Amari Cooper had a 180-yard 2-touchdown game and a 217-yard 3-touchdown game. Like in those 2 weeks, I think that was already like wide receiver 2 numbers in just 2 games.
Yeah,
Upside there for sure.
they're great. I just want something a little bit more consistent.
Value goes down if Zeke isn't there, though, in my opinion.
Yeah,
It's an important factor.
It's not, teams don't have to stack the box to stop Zeke. They could play a little bit more coverage. So, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I would just take another wide receiver in the third round. They have Tyreek Hill projected at the third round. I still wouldn't touch him. I'm just not going to touch him at all. Like, not going to.
You think he's going to get caught up in that case? You think that it's not definitive yet?
He just has too much baggage. It's like potential baggage, right? There's, especially in how deep the wide receiver pool is. You can find another player like Hill, get the same amount of production, and not worry about him like beating
up more women.
Yeah, like bullshit, right? So, I would definitely avoid. I mean, I would just avoid Hill the entire. Like, let someone else take him. If he goes off, he goes off. I had him last season. He was really good, but just don't rely on Hill. Sorry, go ahead.
Side note, like, these suspensions that the NFL are handing out for domestic violence is like, they're kind of whack. The fact that they're getting suspended as much as Golden Tate is for taking a fertility drug. I don't know where their priorities are. Like, Hill should be out the whole year. Kareem Hunt shouldn't even be on a team. But
I don't think he should even. Yeah, you can even make a case that these guys shouldn't play again. Like, this is
like, why aren't they getting the Ray Rice treatment? Like,
it's disgusting how like Josh Gordon can miss so much time for a weed offense, and people like Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, who literally, like, there's evidence of them physically abusing women,
and kids
get a slap on the wrist. It's a complete joke.
Yeah. We could definitely talk about the ethics of football, maybe or ethics of
definitely another time
later. But yeah, I mean, third round, Kerryon Johnson is projected to go there. I would pass on him.
I think we can carry on from that player.
This dude's been waiting the entire year to drop this goddamn.
Let's carry on to another player.
All right.
So a couple other players that are projected 4th, 5th round kind of goes back to my point about quarterbacks. I see Aaron Rodgers. I see Andrew Luck. I see Deshaun Watson. What's your approach with that, Lawrence?
I'll try my luck on another quarterback.
Hey, I like that. There you go.
No, I'm not touching quarterbacks here. I think there's way too many valuable wide receivers and running backs that you can pick up in around this range that, like you said, like, I differ in your belief of Kerryon Johnson. I think Kerryon Johnson should be drafted higher. I think he has a true opportunity of being a 3-down bell cow back in Detroit.
Full disclosure, I actually think Kerryon Johnson is a really good player, but I just wanted to say that. So.
Yeah, like, I think one of the Rams wide receivers, like, doesn't matter who you pick it out of the hat, one of them is going to be a very decent wide receiver too that you can get around this range with wide receiver 1 upside on any given week, and downside they're going to give you like 4 catches or 50 yards. It's still a very passable week, but they also provide you 200-yard, 2-touchdown upside. I mean, someone like, I think there are other running backs too that you can, like, Aaron Jones is going in the 4th round. Like, he has a true opportunity of being a 3-down back over there in Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers loves him, wants him to play every play. And with the new coach there, like, maybe they'll give him the opportunity rather than split carries like he did last year for half the year.
Sure.
I mean, I just see a lot of good, solid running backs that can definitely function as a running back 2 because they're running back 1s on certain teams. Like, there's a lot of question marks regarding Leonard Fournette and Devontae Freeman, but if they drop all the way down to middle of round 4, like, they're definitely worth taking a flyer.
Definitely take either of them there, particularly Leonard Fournette if he falls down.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of question marks surrounding them, but these are both running backs that have RB1 upside.
That's too much value to pass up at that position.
Yep. Yeah, so I think round 4 is definitely a point in the draft where there's a lot of good wide receivers and running backs that you can pick, where you can just kind of forget about taking the QBs because the opportunity cost of taking a QB outweighs the one of if you just draft a running back or wide receiver.
Yeah, because the guys that are going here in round 4 and 5 that are wide receivers compared to the ones that are going in round 8 and 9 at the same position, there's a substantial difference. But same thing can't be said for the quarterbacks. You look at the round 8, round 9 quarterbacks, it's not that statistically like significant of a difference between the round 4, 5 QBs and the round 8, 9 ones. So
Yep.
keep waiting on QB. A couple of controversial players that are kind of slipping in drafts that people may want to know what your thoughts are on them. What do you think about AJ Green and what do you think about Sonny Michel? Yash.
I mean, AJ Green is, that's typical for any player that sustains a serious injury. And so having him drop in drafts, that's fine. That's not a that's not a that's not the result of his like talent level or ability. It's just he's injured. He's not gonna you're not gonna get any points from him. He's not gonna be playing any games. So
But would you take him at round 5,
no,
like where he's going right now?
no, I'd take him I'd probably draft him like round 9 or 10 and put him on my IR.
Yeah. Leave him for someone else. Leave him for another sucker in the league who wants to draft him in round 5.
Yeah, that's a positive for you. It's I guess who was the other player?
Sonny Michel.
Sonny Michel. Yeah, he has some like knee issue, right?
Yeah.
Degenerative knee issue.
Yeah, so they may be just limiting his carries. You have to remember, the Patriots, they have like a nice collection of running backs, combo backs that they can play. They still got James White. Rex Burkhead is going to be playing. They still have, don't they have like a fullback that's still running there? That's been pretty good.
The guy who kept scoring touchdowns every other play for no reason. But they also drafted a running back in the 3rd round.
Yeah. So
draft.
Yeah, Sonny Michel, like I would definitely not draft in the 5th round. I would actually just avoid that situation entirely. If anything, wait until like the 8th or 9th round, even the 10th round, and draft James White. He's a PPR running back, PPR friendly running back. Gets a lot of receptions. There's the Patriots. I feel like what they do is they tailor their game plans to the roster that they've constructed. So, I think they're going to be a little bit more like pass heavy, I guess. Just because of the running back situation that they have. The loss of Gronk is big, but I think maybe someone like James White can just fill in the role and just get those like 6, 7, 8 receptions, 40, 50 yards. So yeah, I would just, I kind of veered off a little bit, but I would just avoid Sonny Michel. Let someone else take that.
You're gonna pass on both.
Yeah, don't deal with injuries like that.
Okay.
So.
So we're kind of now in like round 6 through 8 range. One player that's kind of getting a lot of hype because he's got some new weapons is Baker Mayfield, quarterback that's kind of getting the hype, kind of like Patrick Mahomes did, kind of going into the season. So is that someone that you would gamble on maybe potentially having a breakout season, or are you just going to continue to wait, Lawrence?
It's really interesting, right? I think the QB dilemma this year is very interesting. I can see the reasoning for taking Baker Mayfield, but he's not really on my radar. I have other quarterbacks I'd rather have. I think quarterback rushing yards is a very, very valuable stat when it comes to QBs. And yeah, Mayfield scrambles, but he's not as talented with his legs as some of the other quarterbacks that are going after him. And I think the quarterback dilemma this year isn't Baker Mayfield, it's Kyler Murray. Where's Kyler Murray going to go in round 1? Because people who saw what this hype did with Patrick Mahomes last year, they might get a little bit of FOMO and want to take Kyler Murray. And I also want Kyler Murray. And I also want to get him before some of these other people. Like, I don't know, his ADP is so low that I can justify Kyler Murray going around the same rounds as someone like Matt Ryan or Cam Newton or Russell Wilson in that offense and with the talent level that he has. And it's whether or not I'm willing to reach for him. I think that's my biggest QB dilemma right now.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And he may far exceed the value. You know that team's going to be throwing a lot. You know that team's probably going to be down. So that's
Yeah, I mean,
interesting
just
player for sure.
completely just ignored your Baker Mayfield question, but he's just not someone that interests me. Like I don't like drafting running backs that can't really run, or quarterbacks that can't run. Freudian slip right there. I just want
So
them to
I
run.
see a couple Chargers going in round 6 and 7. A tight end, Hunter Henry, and a wide receiver, Mike Williams. So Yash, what is your unbiased emphasis on unbiased take on these players going
You
in the
should have
seventh?
you should have given this to me because we're not going to hear an unbiased take right now.
Wow. All right. My unbiased take is that Hunter Henry is not going to have the year, like he's not going to have like an amazing year, like 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, whatever. He's going to have a good year.
That's 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. I don't think any. You say that's amazing. I don't think many tight ends ever get to those numbers. But
Kelsey did. Kelsey and Gronk have.
so you're basically comparing Hunter Henry to Kelsey and Gronk.
No, I'm saying he's not going to get like he's gonna have. He'll have a good year. Like
Like 900 yards and 9
So
touchdowns.
he's currently tight end 4 on Yahoo. So
yeah. All you won't go wrong with drafting Hunter Henry in the 7th round. That's a good place to take him. You know, he's coming off an ACL tear, and you know he's gonna look to, you know, prove everyone, like, first of all, repay everyone's faith in him and prove the haters wrong. So he'll have a good year. Mike Williams, he's gonna have a breakout year. And if
define breakout year, what numbers are we talking about?
1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns.
1,200 yards
1,200 yards and 9
and
touchdowns.
9 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Is that a tapioca take? Because I would love to.
Yeah,
get
that's a
free
tapioca.
boba for that.
That's a tapioca take.
And you're giving me 1-to-1 on that?
I don't know. I think it'll be 2-1.
So what if he gets like 300 or 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns?
That means he loses.
Yeah,
That's the one
he
vote.
loses. Yeah, unless I'll make it 1-1 if it's a point system.
Do you want to just throw up like a wide receiver overall number?
Let me give you here. I'll give you like points, right? So 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns. That's let's say that's 21 points, right? 1,200 yards equals 12 points. 9 touchdowns.
Okay. Let's stick with that. If one or the other doesn't happen, then I win. If both of those happen, I will give you 4 bobas.
Damn.
Dude, so that's 4-1.
4-1.
4-1.
But both of those have to happen. If
Those
only
are
one
pretty
happens,
solid odds.
All right, that's fine. I take that. That's great.
all right.
All right, we got
is
ourselves a tapioca take.
Monday
spicy
through Thursday.
tapioca take.
Monday through Thursday. That's one boba for each day.
Put that on the dock.
Hey,
Yeah.
but that's San Francisco boba. That's not like LA boba where it's like half the price.
Yeah,
They're
this
paying like
is boba, guys, man. This is like $6.50 for like boba plus like a coconut milk.
this is bougie boba.
Yeah, you can get whatever toppings you want. So basically what Yash is saying, if I'm not mistaken here, is that Mike Williams is being drafted way too low. He should actually he could return, round 2, round 3 value. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, I mean those are my 1 second. We got a train coming by.
No worries. Fair.
All right.
I can't wait for that free boba. It'll be delicious.
Yeah.
So Lawrence, we discussed this a little bit earlier, but I see Chicago Bears defense in the 7th round. Can you just spend like maybe 30 seconds on why this should never happen?
Because a lot of defenses, I think especially last year, defensive touchdowns are about 70% luck. And I think Chicago's defense set the record for most touchdowns in an entire year last year. Was that a real stat that I just threw out there? Or did I make that up?
We can fact check that later.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of defensive touchdown regression coming for Chicago. And like in the 7th round, like you're really gonna draft Chicago's defense over someone like Russell Wilson or Jarvis Landry or David Montgomery, or
All
like.
projected to go in round 7 right now, by the way.
So I'd rather take my chance on a skill position player and then get another defense later in the draft. Good luck to whoever drafts Chicago, because it's very hard to win a fantasy league taking a defense in round 7.
Okay. So Yash, is this a part of the draft where you're okay taking quarterback? Because now we're in round 7, round 8, round 9. We've got guys like Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Carson Wentz, all being taken around this area. Is this a point of the draft where you're okay with pulling the trigger on a quarterback?
Yeah, this is around the right time that I would take a quarterback. And what I would do is I would pair that quarterback with my number 1 receiver. And what I mean by that is if I have Julio Jones, I'm going to be targeting Matt Ryan. If I have DeAndre Hopkins, I'm going to be targeting, Deshaun Watson. If I have Devontae Adams, I'm probably not going to be getting Aaron Rodgers. If I wanted to do that strategy, I'd probably have to draft Rodgers maybe a round or 2 early. But most of the time, I like to pair my wide receivers with the quarterback that they actually play with.
You like to stack?
Yeah, it's and it's these quarterbacks that they're like gunslingers, right? Like you always drafted Drew Brees with Jimmy Graham, and that paid dividends for you.
Yeah, it did.
So it's like you have to draft. Like, it's not like you could pair any quarterback with their star receiver because maybe that quarterback is just inconsistent, right? They're not putting up like 300 yards a game or whatever. So if you're pair, like, I guess it's overall strategy. Like, I like to get wide receivers from teams that throw a lot, and that is the Michael Thomases and the Julio Jones, and that leads into me drafting those quarterbacks, Matt Ryan's and Drew Brees. Keenan Allen and Phillip Rivers is a good combo too. Homer take, but that's still a good combo. So yeah, Mahomes and Kelsey for Drew. That's a great combo. So yeah, that's around these rounds is when I would probably get a quarterback.
All right, fair. Lawrence, what are some players that maybe give us some players that you think look like they should be taken higher in this round 8, round 9 range, and some players that you're not touching? So I see guys like Tyler Boyd, Jarvis Landry, DJ Moore, David Njoku, Robbie Anderson, Jordan Howard. You don't have to talk about those players specifically. You can if you want, but what are some players you're targeting in this area of the draft, and what are some that you're just not going to touch?
I mean, I just want to make a counterpoint first to
Sure.
to Yash's stacking wide receiver with quarterback point, which is that's a very all-in-ish type strategy. I feel like some weeks you're gonna stack a wide receiver with a QB, and if that team doesn't put up points, it's like a guaranteed loss for the week, right? The same way, like even if your quarterback and wide receiver goes off, it's still not a guaranteed win per se. Like it's a really high risk, but it's also high reward because you can have those weeks where Matt Ryan throws 4 touchdowns and 2 of them go to Julio Jones and you just win the week.
Yeah.
But it's also like one of those things where I like to put my eggs in separate baskets and diversify my portfolio. So like if I have Matt Ryan and the Falcons don't go off and I have another wide receiver that's not Julio Jones, like at least my ship isn't completely sunk. So I think there's definitely 2 ways to go about it.
I think that strategy, if you look at last year, maybe it only works with Mahomes and Kelsey if you somehow got both of them. Mahomes and Tyreek Hill.
So what place did you finish last year?
We're not going to talk about that. We're talking about this year. So Lawrence, some players that you like in
No, I mean that's fine. I definitely lost last year because I drafted Leonard Fournette, which is very unfortunate for me. But I had 2 wins under my belt last year, so I mean I'm okay with that.
I got you.
Finish, yes. Was it a second place? Your favorite spot?
It's another second place, but yeah, it definitely is like an all-in type move.
So, what's your take on those?
Yeah, so I think you definitely mentioned a few players who are who are kind of getting a lot of hype in that range, right? Like Tyler Boyd, I think last year when AJ Green missed games, that guy was putting up wide receiver 2 stats 2 numbers, and now he's going as a wide receiver 3. I think you can definitely reach for him. He's going way undervalued, and give him a shot. DJ Moore, I think both those Carolina wide receivers are way undervalued. Like, this is going to be a very solid Carolina team with a good offense, and with Cam Newton completely healthy, there's no reason his number 1 and number 2 target should be going in round 8 and round 9. Like, DJ Moore led the league last year in yards after catch, and that's like a really important stat because it just means he's elusive and fast and not easy to tackle. And that's like, speed never slumps, right? So he can if he's struggling to catch balls, like he can get those like 5-yard pitches and still take it to the house.
Those
So I
wide
think,
receiver screenplays.
yeah, like, he's too good to be going behind guys like Alshon Jeffrey and, dare I say, Calvin Ridley and Tariq Cohen. Like, I think DJ Moore should be going a lot higher.
So
And then
you like
another,
the upside of DJ Moore.
oh, definitely. And I think,
Do you think he's going to finish at a certain position, maybe in the top 15 wide receivers, or?
are you trying to get a Boba bet from me?
I'm trying to get a tapioca take out of you.
I will take him as a wide receiver 2 or better for the year.
You know, I liked wide receiver 16. I don't know if I like wide receiver 2 as much. How about we meet halfway?
We'll go 20 or less.
Let's go 18 or less.
Wide receiver 2 is 24. Wide receiver...
Let's go 18 or less, and I'll give you 2-1.
Deal. You got yourself a tapioca take.
Okay, so tapioca take.
But
DJ Moore will finish as a top 18 wide receiver. You heard it here first.
And so the reason why you're taking this bet is because you're not the biggest fan of DJ Moore, or what?
No, that's not the case. I'm just in the mood to have some free boba. That's
free boba.
Yeah, but I
actually
think the Panthers receiver that I want is actually Curtis Samuel.
I think they're both good. I really think they're both good. They're both going to be a solid option, and Curtis Samuel's getting all the hype, which I like because that just means that I get better value on DJ Moore.
Fair.
So I'm okay with that.
Well, we'll see if he returns that value.
Yeah, and then a couple guys, Yash kind of talked about earlier, like James White going in the 9th round when he's going to get all those screen passes from Tom Brady and all those receiving running back yards from Tom Brady. I think he's way too valuable of a running back to be going in the 9th or 10th round. You can definitely get him in this round. And then David Njoku is another guy that you can target in this round. I think he's very talented. Last year was a little underwhelming because he was supposed to break out last year, but I think now with all the weapons surrounding Cleveland, like he's talented, and so now he's able to have a lot of pressure off of him because all the pressure is going to be on OBJ and Jarvis and Chubb. Like, Njoku's going to have free reign in the middle of the field or wherever they line him up.
Solid. Yash, I have a question for you. So this is kind of I guess a topic that some people are confused about a little bit. What Bears running back, if any, would you be taking between David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen? Are you avoiding both? Do you like either one of them more than the other? Is that a situation that you're approaching with one of your picks?
I'd probably avoid both of them. I don't like to have running backs that I feel like that's like a committee situation there. Tariq Cohen is like kind of like a third down screen pass type guy. I think if you're drafting, you could treat Cohen as like a handcuff almost. So you could start him as like a running back too. Actually, you know what? Like I would probably have Cohen as like my second running back. If like that was the best possible choice.
That take just went from 0 to 100.
I had to think about it.
Wait, what did I hear? I heard Cohen as a number 2 running back.
No, like on my team, like he fills one of the second slot. Not.
You're not gonna have a tapioca take.
I was gonna offer. I'd take a tapioca take for that one.
Like he'd be my second running back, and that's because he fills kind of like that Darren Sproles, Danny Woodhead type role.
And that's because you tend to go after elite receivers. So
yeah, so
doing that.
Like I said, like if whatever slots I have, like my flex spot is always going to have a third receiver, like no matter what. So yeah.
Lawrence, same topic. If you could just give a quick thought. Do you?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty high on David Montgomery just because it's the Bears, right? Like that Bears they're like a grind kind of team, and I think last year especially like Trubisky, yeah, he took steps forward, but man, he was still pretty awful, and they relied a lot on the running back game to help control that offense. And I think whoever gets the lion's share of the carries there in
The Bears,
Chicago,
sir.
would I say this? Oh, the bear share. Yeah, there you go. The bear share, the carries is still going to be a very valuable fantasy asset, especially because both of these running backs are going pretty late. I think what Montgomery is going in round 7 or something like that.
They're
So
both going 7th and 8th round, and let's say you do take David Montgomery. Are you also going to take Tariq Cohen as like a handcuff situation, or are you just going to take one and live with it?
it's like one of those things too, where like I drafted both Gio Bernard and uh, the other Cincinnati running back a couple years ago. Who was it? It was Gio Bernard and
Jeremy Hill.
Jeremy Hill. I drafted both of them thinking that I could get running back one value out of either of them. I literally had both of them on my bench the entire year, and it's a situation where I'd rather just put my eggs in one basket and live with the results because at least if David Montgomery doesn't work out, I can just drop him. Whereas like the whole Jeremy Hill, Gio Bernard situation, like I couldn't drop either of them. I was literally handcuffed to both of them for the whole year. It was either I drop both of them or keep both of them, and it's not an easy situation to be in.
Fair. So let's kind of speed through the end here. We're looking at now like round 10 through 15. Obviously, we kind of share similar thought process on defense and kickers. Get them in the last 2 or 3 rounds. For some reason, Greg Zerloin is going in like the 8th round. Again, do not take a kicker in the 8th round. Wait till the end of your draft. It's not a good idea. So since we're at near the end of the draft, what are some potential home run hits that you guys see? Maybe we could start with you, Yash. Do you see any players on the board that could potentially return 2nd, 3rd round value that are going in the 10th, 11th, 12th?
Dave Njoku from Cleveland. I feel like he's just going to be a TD hawk.
Okay.
You've got OBJ and Landry. Teams are gonna he's gonna get he's just gonna sneak through. Like OBJ and Landry are both gonna command a lot of attention. So he's just gonna be. I feel like he's gonna be like one of Mayfield's favorite targets throughout the season.
You've pointed out David Njoku a few times, so I'm curious. Do you think he finishes as a top 5 tight end this year?
Yeah. That's.
Are you willing?
Drew's angling for another boba bet right now, another tapioca take.
All right, if you want I'll take.
Are you willing to put your tapioca where your straw is?
I don't know what the fuck that means. I'll make a boba bet.
I think the word you meant was mouth, but
no, I meant straw.
All right, whatever.
All right, so you heard it here first. Tapioca take. David Njoku finishes as a top 5 top 5 tight end in 0.5 PPR format. I am moving on to Lawrence. Lawrence, you have some home run hits for us. And I said round 10 through 12. To be fair, Njoku's projected as top 9.
Yeah, a couple of guys that I would definitely take a flyer on. I think I would definitely. Miles Sanders is a guy that I've been taking in my mock drafts, and he's been getting a lot of hype since then. I think you have to have expectations because he's also sharing running back carries with a bunch of other running backs there, but there's a chance he breaks out and he's going mostly undrafted or late 12. I think Mecole Hardman from Kansas City, wide receiver.
That guy's fast.
He's fast. I don't know if you guys saw that touchdown he had yesterday, but
he's actually ran a faster 40 than Tyreek Hill. So
yeah, so with Tyreek Hill out, speed kills, right? You're gonna Mahomes to Hardman going basically undrafted is gonna be a very solid flyer in the late rounds. I think N'Keal Harry from New England.
N'Keal Harry?
Yeah.
The Patriots?
Harry from the Patriots is gonna be a solid option going basically undrafted. There's a lot of really good diamond in the rough type players who are going undrafted. I'm not talking about DK Metcalf. I'll leave that to you. But other guys that I kind of like too is Damian Harris, which is another New England player.
Yeah, he's way down there considering the news with Sonny Michel. He's way down there. A couple guys on here also that maybe Yash likes. I see Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson going late. What do you think, Yash? What do you think about that? Pull the trigger on those?
Yeah, I mean, Eckler, I think he'll have the same season. I mean, that's 10 through 12. Yeah, those are good picks.
Those are pretty good numbers if he has the same season. He had a pretty solid year last year.
So yeah, he would fall in that kind of like Tariq Cohen category for me, where he'd be, the second running back on my team. Justin Jackson, right now it's trending that he's probably going to be starting, or they may have Eckler start, but I think they're going to have like a timeshare. Starting the season. So definitely a good pick. You never know how the Melvin Gordon situation is going to turn out. So it's good to take a risk with him. I mean, I like both of those picks in that round 10 through 12 area.
Fair. For me personally, I like. Let me see here. I like Curtis Samuel, which I touched on earlier. I think he's going in the mid 11th to 12th round. I think there's a lot of value with that pick. I think it is actually worth taking Sterling Shepard here. He's being drafted in like the 11th, 12th round. I think at that point, I'm okay with taking a risk of a guy missing games or being hurt. Why not at that point? Another guy that Lawrence hinted at that I like as well is DK Metcalf. I say why not? He's currently undrafted in fantasy leagues in Yahoo. I say take a shot. Why not? Guy might end up being, the WR2 for the Seattle Seahawks. And there's a lot of targets to go around now that Doug Baldwin's out of the situation. So definitely a lot of value on the board. So make sure you take a kicker and defense at the very, very end, because you will miss out on these potential home run hits. Any other thoughts, guys? Are we?
Yeah, I think we can
cover some players that we are thinking that are going to do terrible this year, maybe.
I'll have a player that I think is going to do terrible. I'll go with let's go with Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
That is my avoid pick this year.
That's your avoid pick?
Yeah.
And can you elaborate a little? Or
I mean, I can. I just feel like it's one of those things where last year he definitely hit probably the peak of his standard deviation. Like he's going to regress, and it's not like Dion Lewis is going anywhere. Like he's still going to be there. He's still going to catch passes in Tennessee, and Henry is going as a top 2 round pick, and Dion Lewis is going as like a 12th round pick, when last year they were basically getting drafted in the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still splitting carries. It's still not a high octane offense. Mariota's like it's just slow. They play defense, they grind, and they're not good, so they're going to be behind and throwing it a lot more often, which means Dion Lewis is going to be catching it a lot more often. So
fair. Yash, do you have a player that you will be completely avoiding this year?
Completely avoiding, I think Tyreek Hill. I'm just going to avoid that situation. I mean, talent-wise, it's all there. It's not like he's regressing or anything, but I don't trust the entire situation. I guess, I mean, he probably won't do terrible, but there's just way too much baggage, way too much risk attached with them. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of QBs that I don't think are going to do well, but other than that, that's probably what it take for me.
Fair.
What about you, Drew?
I think I'm going to just double down. I'm going to be boring. I'm going to just double down on my Juju take. I am completely avoiding Juju Smith-Schuster this year. I am all out on him.
Same here. We got a consensus there.
First time for everything, right?
All right. Well, that wraps up our fantasy chat. You want to send us off, Drew?
Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us again. This is always fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. What are some fantasy players that you're targeting this year? What are some players that you're avoiding? Let us know your thoughts. And this is the Boardmen Don't Get Paid podcast. And we are signing out. Take care, guys.
Peace.